Hey everybody, it is time for this week's market snapshot. What has happened in the Northern Virginia real estate market in the last 7 days in under 5 minutes, or at least close to that. Here we go. Okay, so this is what has been going on in the Northern Virginia real estate market in the last 7 days, specifically Fairfax County. We're going to look at what we call lead measures. We do this every 7 days, and the reason we do this is because we want you to know real time what's going on so you can make real time decisions when you're out there in the market and doing what you need to do on the buy side or the sell side. So what are lead measures? So lead measures are things that give us a projection about what is going to happen. So a lag measure would be an example of like sold data. The problem with sold data is that sold data is anywhere from 30 to 60 days old, maybe even 75 days old, depending on how quickly you get the information. You can't make a decision today based on sold data from information of what the market was doing 60 to 75 days ago. So what you want to do is we want to look at lead data, which is what's happened in the last 7 days. So we are as close as possible as we can get to real time. So we're looking at, for the buy side or demand, we're looking at properties that went under contract. And for the sales side or the supply, we're looking for inventory that came onto the market. So that's what we're looking at. And then we compare the two and we figure out, okay, what's the supply versus demand ratio? And what does that put us as far as like a buyer's market, seller's market, or neutral market? And that affects how we go through and make decisions as we put offers on property, or as sellers as we price properties, or how we consider offers that we receive. Okay, so that's what we're doing. So we're looking at the last 7 days. This is the first week since we got out of the schools beginning, we got out of Labor Day weekend. So this is the first full week of what we may end up seeing happen over this fall market. It's very interesting because the interest rates have fallen about 0.3%. And so we're seeing the activity pick up because of that. So let's just dive into the numbers. Let me show you exactly what's going on. Okay, so our black line here is going to be the buyer activity, and the buyer activity, you can see in the last 7 days, shot up dramatically. This drop here prior to that was the Labor Day weekend, so we kind of expect there to be a drop on that weekend. And if you compare where we are this year to where we were this week last year, you can see that we're up a little bit, so maybe 10% in buyer activity. And look what happened last year. We had a couple weeks of increased activity, then we kind of settled down and plateaued to get through the fall. So I expect this to kind of do the same thing. We'll probably pick up a little bit higher and then plateau up in this area. Now, inventory shot up this week after Labor Day weekend, significant increase in inventory after it had kind of been on the decline and kind of stabilized. So that inventory shot up, and it shot up at a rate higher than the buyer activity. And if you compare this to last year, you can see that the inventory, it did the same thing last year. So we had that same little bump last year. But then you'll see after this, inventory starts dropping down. And when inventory starts dropping down and that buyer activity goes up and stays up, we get into the strong seller's market. Right now, we're in more of a neutral market, a neutral slash sellers with a little bit of seller side market. So with the interest rates dropping, I really expect to see this buyer activity stay higher than it has been. And if they continue to drop it over the next couple of meetings for the remainder of the year, I expect this fall to be a very, very strong fall with regards to properties moving. Inventory, some people say that inventory tends to go up when interest rates drop. Hopefully that will be the case to match that buyer demand. But if inventory does not continue to go up with that, then we're going to end up in that strong seller's market, and you're going to see it buyers back in the positions they were a couple years ago, where they were having to waive contingencies, bid up on properties and things like that. So if you're a buyer, now is the time. If you're considering buying by the end of the year, now is the time to do it before we see these things happening and before we potentially go into that strong seller's market. So what does this look like on the seller's market? You'll see we just dipped down just a little bit. A normal market is this line right here. Seller's market is anything above that line. Buyer's market, anything below that line. So we did dip down into a little bit of a buyer's market, but that's only because of that large influx of inventory. I expect that buyer activity to shoot way up next week. So what does this mean contract-wise? What can a seller expect to see on a contract, and what can a buyer expect to have to do to perform on a contract? So we're going to focus here in the Northern Virginia. So we're focusing on these middle graphs. 27% of the properties in the last 7 days. This was 219 contracts. Now keep in mind, we've been seeing an average of about 170 contracts through this title company. That shows that increase in buyer activity. 219 contracts, we had 27% of those went above asking price, which kind of coordinates with the 30% that went in the first 7 days. Okay, so sellers, that's a really important thing to see, is if you can get your property under contract in the first 7 days, you've got a stronger chance of getting over at your asking price. So how do you do that? You have to prepare the property, you have to stage the property, you have to probably fresh paint on the property, you have to make the property look nice, and it has to be priced right. If it's priced right and it looks nice, you will sell in that first week because the buyers are there, and you will likely get above your asking price. The next step is the 32% sold at listing price, and you can see here that 27% sold within 8 to 21 days. So basically we had, what's that, 59% here and 57% here. So if your property sells in the first 21 days, you're going to likely get at least asking price and possibly above asking price. What does this mean for buyers? Buyers, if you're looking at a property that's been on the market for 7 days and you go into a multiple offer situation, you're gonna have to bid up, obviously, and you're gonna have to compete. But here's the other thing, if the property has been on the market for 21 days, you're still going to be coming in at listing price based on these records, based on these numbers, and this is what we've been kind of seeing trending over the last several months. So that 21-day mark is where you might start seeing that a property is overpriced, and you might start being able to offer under asking price, which is important for sellers to understand, because you really want your property priced right so it'll sell by that 21st day, because after that you're likely going to start getting below asking price offers. In Virginia, 88% of the contracts of this sampling of contracts were financed and 12% were cash. So contingencies, what's going on with those? What kind of contingencies can a seller expect to see on an offer, and what kind of contingencies can a buyer expect to be able to get? We're pretty consistent over the last couple months. About 75% of buyers are getting their finance contingencies, and 71% are getting their appraisal contingencies. So the vast majority are getting finance and appraisal. But here's where we're starting to see the challenge of the uptick in that buyer activity. The last several weeks, we've seen the home inspection contingency be right around 45, as high as 60% were getting their inspection contingency on the contract. This last week, only 34% got the inspection contingency. So this is where you really see the effect of the competition, because people start waiving those inspection contingencies, and we'll see this number going down and down the more competition that we see. So buyers, again, if you're thinking about buying, and you're thinking about buying within the next even 6 months, do it now before that competition starts picking up and you're back into the chaos of bidding up on properties and waiving all your contingencies. If you're thinking you want to wait for the interest rates to come down so you save a little bit of money, well, so is everybody else. And as soon as those rates come down even more, all the buyers are going to flood the market. You might save a little bit on interest rate, but you're going to pay a lot more in the bid up of the property. Sellers, again, same thing. Just get the house prepared right, price it right, and put your best foot forward getting this property on the market. If you're not willing to do that, that's totally fine, but just be prepared to price it appropriately, because if you price it appropriately, you will generate the activity and you will get that market value, okay? I hope this makes sense for everybody. If you have any questions about this, if you're on the buyer side and you want to see what the interest rates are, see how you can best negotiate a good interest rate, get access to off-market properties, and see what we can do actually to help you find more of those off-market properties, reach out to us, and we're happy to do a buyer consultation with you at no charge. Sellers, we're happy to come by the house, take a walk through, look at the house, see what needs to be done to get it in its pristine condition, let you know what that property would sell at likely in that condition, and what we might be able to do to help you with that as well. No obligation to either one of these free consultations, and Kelly and I are happy to do it for you. Reach out to us at 703-783-2143, and we will see you guys next week on the next Market Snapshot. Have a great week out there.